Ready to pull our pontoon out for the first time this year, and of course you got to do your yearly inspections on your pontoon trailers. Check out what we found. It's time for service. All right, when you grab this wheel, you hear that? It's got some back and forth, some play in the wheel bearing, that way and this way. Now we'll spin it up. She's loud. Let's get to work. Take our 19 millimeter, zip this tire off. All right, we'll go around the lip of this cap where the hub and the dust cap meet. And you might need somebody to hold that still for you, but she's coming out. Pop that off. We'll give her a little tap off now that we got the dust cap worked off. Looks like we've had some water contamination. I did notice this dust cover wasn't on all the way. Check your rubber. These are for removing. You can remove them and then grease easily right here. This wasn't on all the way. I think we got some water that was just sitting in those bearings. Plenty of grease in there. Next thing we're gonna do is take our paper towel, get as much of this grease off. The way they were sounding, I would recommend replacing the bearings, but I wanna be using this today or tomorrow. So I'm just gonna show you guys a quick grease and repack, and we'll see the difference in the sound and the play once everything's greased and repacked. Next thing we got is a cotter key right here. We're gonna bend it straight and push that cotter key out. You're typically gonna want some pliers or something for this. I might be able to get this one without any pliers, like that. Hey. Now, this nut, ooh, I don't know if I've ever greased or I've ever serviced these since I got the trailer, but seems like it's on there pretty tight. All right, we'll grab our socket size for this and then get back to it. So this one happened to be a 1.5 inch nut on the end of here, or 38 millimeter. And we will get our nut and our washer off of there. You can see how brown this grease is. Whoa. We'll set those down on a paper towel and get them cleaned up. The end of this has a grease fitting. That's where you're just gonna pop your rubber cap off and grease it real quick every year. And there was rust forming on the end. That's why the nut felt so tight. So yeah, we definitely had some water in there. Now we pull our hub off. There we go. We're gonna clean all that grease right there. Here's our outside bearing. We're gonna clean these up and look for imperfections, scoring, that kind of stuff. There's an inner race in here underneath all that grease. Same thing here, we have our inner bearing here with a seal. And basically what I'm gonna do is just clean this grease out. I don't wanna break the seal. This will get me through this year because I don't trailer my pontoon very far to the public access, but I will take a note of the part numbers on the bearings. That way I can have some ready to order for next year before we put it in service. This will get us by. I took the brake cleaner and sprayed out what was in between each one of the bearings. Just went whoosh, whoosh in those two cracks. And there was some, you can see the spots on my finger. It's like some chunky rust-like stuff. If we can get to focus, these bearings are not good. Let me try to focus. Man, it won't focus close enough. There's little like rust chunks taken out of the bearings. And there's play left and right. The cage almost wants to come off. So this bearing is bad. Unfortunately, there's no part number that I can see after wire wheeling and cleaning. No part number. I can make out a part number on the seal. I got to clean it a little bit more. You can buy these assemblies if you want to go easy style. You can just buy a new one, slap it right on. If we want to rebuild this one, we got to get some part numbers or bring it up to the parts store to match up and smack the races off, because it's going to need new races after riding on bad bearings. So we can get 2 of these as an assembly, which might be a better option. This will be cheaper if we rebuild them ourselves, smacking the races out. Let's see what I want to go with. But yeah, these are definitely bad. Like I said, we just go up the road to the public access with this pontoon. It doesn't go anywhere else. We got a part number on that one still. Yep. All right, so it's worn off of this one. This side was a little louder, but we do have a part number, so that's what you're going to look for. You can cross that on multiple websites, come up with different brands that are interchanged with, or ask your local parts store, and it'll come with the race that it comes with. So we do have bearing numbers and seal numbers because it was still on the other side. Some people just replace the bearings, and when they get this bad, where they got little chunks in them, we know that that race is going to be scored or worn down a bit, so definitely replace that as well. Entered the part number in on Napa. The bearings were like $9 a piece, but I found this kit, measured the inside diameter of the axle, the bearings, or the outside of the axle. 1 1/16 is what we have. Part numbers on these cross, so $23.99 rebuilt both of the hubs. I don't know anything about the quality of those, but I don't run this trailer too hard, so we're running it. We're getting out cheap. The spindle looks really nice. You can tell the bearing was getting a little, that's where your inner bearing sits, getting a little hot. Clean this off for your new seal to go on. We'll be rebuilding these next year. We'll just re-grease these. They'll be fine. I like to take my bass tracker out mostly, not my pontoon, so it only gets used when I take the family out. We'll be fine for this year. And maybe we'll do a Hub Buddy trailer rebuild next spring. Hope you learned something. I guess we'll just show re-greasing and torquing and call it a day. All right, if you don't have a bearing packer, I'm gonna show you the old school way. You take your bearing, you gotta get grease all in there. I've already packed this side, but get some grease on your palm, some wheel bearing grease, and hit and roll, and it'll actually stuff all that grease in between every bearing. See it building up and coming out the back? That's what you wanna see. You're kind of hitting your palm, boom. That's old school bearing packing for you guys. And now this bearing is packed. All right, we got this side done. It's a lot quieter, smooth. Check for play, Jamie. No play. Before it had play and it was a lot louder. So that helped. That'll get us through the year. All right, let's grease our spindle up, seeing how we got her cleaned a bit. I did not wire wheel this one or anything. We're gonna get some grease on the shaft. Always lube your shaft, boys. It's good for it. Helps everything slide in and out easier. All right, we've got our hub here. I did take a towel and wipe a bunch of grease out of there, so I'm gonna reinsert some grease in between that seal and the inner bearing, packing it in there. Put a little extra that way. We'll put a little bit inside here. That's gonna be too much and it's gonna come pouring out, but that's okay. We gotta get the seal to go up over into its spot. It looks like it is. It's gonna wanna push back against you a little bit. We'll take some grease, pack her in there, and our bearing that we packed, we'll slap her in there. It's gonna push all that grease out, so it's gonna wanna come back out at you. There you go, you heard the pop, got the last air bubble out. It's goopy. We'll pack that in there, that bearing. And we got our washer. I did wire wheel the washer and nut. Press some more grease back out at us. Go ahead and take some of that off. Put a little bit back in. So that actually pressed out a lot of the old grease doing that. Get that off my hands. Woo.
That's a mess.
Now we got our nut. First thing we're gonna do is kind of seat that bearing. Take your socket, clean off any dirt or dust that might be in there. And as I'm spinning the hub, I like to spin the hub as I'm tightening. There we go, that's tight enough. Now we're gonna loosen the nut. Now that the hub's seated into its bearings, it should be finger loose, like that. We're gonna tighten it by a finger, spin our hub. We do have some noise there. Got just a hair amount of play, so we wanna tighten it a little more. We don't want any play in this bearing. Yeah, you can really feel the hang-ups on the bad bearings on this side. Yeah, this side's a lot worse. All right, so I put it on finger tight, then just a hair more. I'm looking for play. This side's got a little bit just because that cage is so loose. I might give it just a little more just because it's so loose. There we go. Yeah, she needs replaced. Put our cotter key through. I can find the hole.
Come on, Carl, I found the hole right away.
You know, I struggle with that sometimes. Alright, looks like we gotta loosen our nut a little bit. The bearing's worn down enough that the hole doesn't line up. I went a little too loose. Just a hair more. These are kind of designed that they're going to line up in between the castle of your nut. Might need a new cotter key for this side, I don't know. We got her through. It's sitting right there where it's supposed to be. And we're gonna bend our cotter key in. Take our dust cover, put it over it, give her a couple taps. Make sure she flushes all the way around with it. When we took this one off, it was kind of cockeyed a little. Might have let a little water in. There we go. Now we get to throw this wheel on and see how much quieter it is than it was before.
Here's hoping.
And see if there's less play. So this all just started with a basic, hey, let's check it out. Make sure everything's good. Make sure our tire pressure's good. Make sure we have no dry rot on our tires before we load the pontoon on for the first time this year. We'll load the pontoon on, bring it over to our hose, give it its first startup, make sure there's no problems before we drop it in the water. You don't want to embarrass yourself getting to the launch and it doesn't start up or something's wrong. All right, here we go. It does not have play anymore. We took that play out. It's a bit quieter. Still loud, but it's a bit quieter.
Get another season out of it.
If you under torque your axle nut, you're gonna be getting play when you grab the wheel. And then if you over tighten it, it's gonna feel, you're gonna get a lot of resistance. You should be able to spin your wheel And it keeps spinning just like that if you get your torque right. And it would probably keep spinning longer if those bearings weren't all grooved up from the rust. It looked just like rust pitting on those bearings. So, all right, we're good till next spring. Catch you guys later. Thanks for watching the trailer episode.